Hello, welcome to Moving Iron Podcast, Market Roundup with Chip Nellinger. Chip's in a airport here. He's traveling back from a weekend deal he was doing over the weekend here, so we're catching him here in the airport. But Chip, looks like since Wednesday the market did some crazy stuff. Thursday it went way down, and Friday it shot back up. So there was some pretty good volatility there.
There was. And just when the market looked like it was ready to just, go back to zero, you had a big rally on Friday. So that kind of shocked everyone, me included. Led by the wheat market, wheat fell into new contract lows Wednesday, Thursday. Looked like the world was ending, and we shot back up double-digit gains on Friday. The part of that is the Australian crop is going to end up way lower than what people expected. There were some private numbers, or actually not private, their government equivalent of USDA in Australia. Their crop there is going to be like a 60-year low in production. And that was a spark that the market needed. Had wheat rallying sharply, had corn rallying as well. We pretty much reversed the losses from Thursday and got all those back and then some in the corn market. So, we'll see. It's a good start. Beans are still the weak link. They did close higher, but they were definitely the laggard on the way back up Friday, and they were the leader on the way down along with wheat. So corn held technically right where it needed to, about a 50% retracement. It's a good spot for it to stop, but we need to see some follow-through gains this coming week to kind of verify that maybe a temporary low is in place. We also are within shouting distance of the November 8th crop report. That's going to be a big report. Update on yields, update on demand, update on world numbers. That comes out the 8th of November. So, a lot to hit this market. Still a lot. So I'm in the airport now, flying back from Denver, but I drove out there on Thursday, and there is a lot of crop in the field as you get into, basically everywhere west of the Mississippi. A lot of crop in the field. The further west you go, the more there is. And we drove through rain again, not heavy rain. So they're really struggling to get the crop out of the ground. A couple big wind events here recently, throughout the Midwest, and that's, according to producers, done a lot of damage to what corn is left in the field in spots. So likely corn yields aren't going to go up, and that's going to be something that, underlying supports this corn market until we get that November crop report out of the way. Obviously, beans are going to lag because of the China agreement, but at this upcoming G20 meeting, I believe it's the 20th of November, President Trump and the Chinese president are supposed to at least officially meet, and obviously high on the agenda is going to be this trade war we've got going on. The wheat market's going to watch for world adjustments on that November crop report, as well as any additional talk out of Russia or Ukraine about slowing or curtailed exports there, and also watching weather. I mean, it's been awful wet in areas of the U.S. plains. Planning's a little bit late, so there's some world weather spots popping up that can affect the wheat market here in the next several weeks as well. So looked like doom and gloom Wednesday, Thursday, bounced it back Friday. We'll see what we got in store this week, but pretty decent close. We need to see a little follow through, and which is likely at least stabilization ahead of this November crop report, and then all bets are off depending on what they say there.
Yep. So I'm looking at the overnights that just opened up here. I got my alert on my phone. It looks like everything is up again. Corn's up 3 3/4, and the overnights in December, and December 9th is up 2 3/4. So everything's kind of headed off in a good direction.
Yeah, and that's good to see that we're at least stable to higher here. There is chances of rains coming in areas, so it's just this last third of the corn harvest and 40% of bean harvest has really been a struggle getting it out of the field. Mm-hmm. And historically, when you see late wet falls, it does curtail yields, and generally historically would have seen the highest yield, especially in corn. So that's still a big influence is weather. And, stock market's been real dicey here. So there's some talk that maybe there'll be some money flowing out of stocks into commodities because they're, as a group cheap, especially wheat, corn, and beans leading the pack there as far as value plays and cheap commodities. So we could see the benefit of some of that as well. If there is a bigger correction in the stock market in the weeks ahead, a little bit of money flow coming in would potentially be a good thing for the grain markets.
Yeah. So with the beating that the stock market took here over the week, how'd the cattle market reply, or the livestock market respond to all that?
Yeah, pretty choppy there as well. We saw some correlation midweek. We saw some big down days in the stock market, 500-600 lower, and that definitely weighed on the cattle market. But we bounced it back late in the week and closed, pretty strongly. So pretty good performance all around. Hogs, have been choppy. They're off the highs. They probably have, more emphasis on them to kind of hold in here and rally a little bit. Talk about last week this swine fever, Asian swine fever, maybe making its way into the food chain, and that helped give us a limit up close there midweek in hogs. But it's been a choppy trading affair in hogs. Cattle hold together pretty well. So maybe dodged a bullet. We had a friendly cattle on feed last week. Kind of a delayed reaction. Cash trade a little better, and the cattle market I think is set for good things in here, and likely, at least in my opinion, a little more upside in the short run. So producers need to kind of watch these deferred, contracts, the DEES, the Fed, and if we do extend this rally, look at it as potential hedging opportunity in this cattle out in the winter.
Right. So this December 8th report that's going to come out. With the news that came out of Australia and the news that's coming out of Europe right now, when they're talking about the Europeans, I read an article not too long ago where they had updated their overall yield reports, and they were less than what they expected at this point. Do you foresee that wheat could continue on the same track it's going on with the late harvest or the late planting and the issues that we see in major producing wheat areas across the world?
Yeah, it could, but we're going to need some help on that November crop report here, and I guess we're closing in less than 2 weeks away on that. So we're definitely going to need some help there in the form of shrinking production estimates worldwide. We've really struggled there. There's been some friendly things to talk about in the wheat market, but yet, that world carryout seems to be kind of stable to slightly growing, and I think that's been a little bit of a disappointment to wheat traders around there. So it's going to take at least the resumption of the trend going lower on world wheat stocks. We could easily see that in November with some of the private estimates that have been out here recently. Yeah. So, and then there's always the question, Russia and Ukraine wheat supplies, they're going to ban them, they're not going to ban them. It's been back and forth about half a dozen times. So far they haven't, but if you get deeper, and it likely won't happen into the December, January timeframe, but if you get some confirmation that, their exportable supplies out of the Black Sea area are done, are curtailed by an export tax or an export ban, or even just the cash markets rallying sharply in those areas, meaning that there's not much more supply to put on the export market, that will really ignite the wheat market as well. But that might be a little bit premature. That's probably, some weeks to a couple months ahead of us here.
Yeah, I know cotton's not something that you deal a lot with. But the customers that you have in the Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas area, have you heard any of them talk about taking more wheat acres out and putting cotton in?
I have not heard much of that yet. I think there's still a little bit of a window here. So, I think the next week or 10 days is going to be important to see how the weather transpires out in those areas. But it's definitely been a struggle for them. I mean, you got some of those areas in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas that, have essentially got half or 2/3 of their total rainfall here in the last month, their annual rainfall in the last month. So yeah. It's definitely a weird fall here. And that could be something that, definitely affects things. I think we have to wait till January, the January crop report, when we get our wheat acre, our final wheat acreage number. So that's still a couple months out before we have a little better feel for that.
Right on. All right, Chip. Well, a lot of stuff going on as usual. Guys want to work on a plan, or have you look at a plan that they have already put together? What would be the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, best way is just call our office. We'd be happy to chat with you, 309-550-7213. And we'd have to go over kind of a questionnaire as far as your risk management plan and kind of give you a free evaluation.
Right on, Chip. Well, we'll talk to you again on Wednesday. Have a safe trip home. We'll see you then.
All right. Thanks, Casey.
All right. Take it easy, man.